I'd like to introduce one of our new members, Jim Swanson. He will introduce our guests.
Two guests today are our Register, Leanne Walker from Victoria, who will be speaking later. We'll have more information, and also a guest of Paul Chow is Holly Z.
We have 3 guest speakers today, and as you all know, tomorrow is the Worldwide End Polio Day, Friday, October 24th. And here in Victoria and all around the world, there will be End Polio Now light-up ceremonies. And here in Victoria, it'll be at the McPherson Theatre tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. And then we'll be having a dinner at Don Means afterwards. Now I'd like to introduce our very own End Polio Now super team, Terry Toon and Joan Toon, and their guest, Leanne Walker. And Leanne is the Executive Director of the Post-Polio Awareness and Support Society here in Victoria. Joan and Terry together have a son and a daughter and 4 grandchildren. They've been youth exchange host parents, and they really enjoy the fellowship of Rotary. They've hosted the surprise dinner wrap-up picnic every year for as long as I can remember. And they have both been awarded the Rotary Foundation District Service Award twice. So I'm not sure who's going to start us off. I'll let them decide. Over to you.
When I got a diagnosis of post-polio syndrome, both Terry and I were relieved to finally have an idea of what was causing my strange symptoms. And it was due to polio after all. Then the shock. This was permanent and it is progressive. I'd already been through polio and paralysis, and now this. Didn't seem very fair. I was concerned about the effect on Terry and our kids, as well as our family and our friends. Fortunately for me, my deterioration has been relatively slow. Some must face returning to breathing devices, an especially hard thing to cope with when they've dealt with this before. I'm so lucky to have Terry and my children for support. Many who face post-polio syndrome have families that do not understand and are reluctant to learn about it, leaving that person very much alone. They are determined to face post-polio syndrome with the same courage and determination they had with polio. They make the most of their physical abilities and simply get on with life. They're very proud of the work that Rotary does. You've accepted the challenge to eradicate polio from this world, protecting the children of the future from the horrors of polio and the shock and worries of post-polio syndrome. Rotarians are my heroes, and I know many polio survivors join me in this. I'm always amazed that many of you never even experienced polio epidemics, yet you work so hard to end polio now. That's truly service above self.
I've had the pleasure of being with PASS since 2008, first as the bookkeeper and now as our executive director as well. Prior to working with PASS, I had very little knowledge of polio and its after effects post-polio syndrome. At first it was just a job. With time I have learned so much. I have been amazed by the outstanding work of Rotary to immunize the children of the world against polio. Their dedication and enthusiasm of Rotarians such as yourself is truly inspiring. Now, as they deal with post-polio syndrome, I see people who still remain unvictimized by polio. They continue to face each new problem as a challenge. Never complaining, stubborn as hell, I've had to wrestle bags from the arms because they say, I can do it. I have absolutely no doubt that they can do it, but that doesn't mean they should. I'd like to present your President Allie a copy with our Polio Memories book.
Thank you.
It's filled with stories that will astound you, and I encourage you to borrow it from her. Thank you so much for your time.
So I'm here to talk to you, it's me again, about the role of a supporter of a polio survivor, or what it's like to be married to a polio survivor. Pretty darn good, actually. One way I support Joan and her many friends, polio survivor friends, is to do what I'm doing right now, and that's to help Rotary achieve its first priority, the eradication of polio.
No one appreciates the need to end polio more than those who have had the disease, so I feel like I'm supporting Joan and her fellow polio survivors as I work to help Rotary end polio now. It also needs to be said that no one appreciates the need to immunize our children against polio and other diseases than those who have endured those diseases. With respect to post-polio syndrome, an important factor for me as a supporter has been learning to understand what it is. There was an epiphany for me when Joan and I went to a post-polio conference in the mid-1990s. I virtually knew nothing about it then. She didn't know much either, but as she described, things were happening. Spouses were invited to sit on one of the sessions, and so I joined it. We were in a large meeting room in a hotel in Vancouver. And as we took our seats, I heard someone exclaim across the room, "Can we have some heat in here?" And I thought, now that sounds familiar. And I found myself in a room full of people with the same concerns as Joan for the same reason. As Joan often says, if we eradicate polio, we eradicate post-polio syndrome. 2 for 1. In light of all you've heard today, I'd like to invite you to help Rotary finish the job of polio eradication.
President Alley, and fellow Rotarians and guests, it's my pleasure today to call for nominations for the District Governor for Rotary year 2017 and 2018. Between this January and July 1st, 2017, the successful candidate will begin 2.5 years of training in preparation for the year as District Governor.
The first couple of videos that he's done have been really good. So it's a work in progress, but I wanted to just give you an idea of what's going on. And if you absolutely do not want your face in the video, please come and let us know so that we can honor that. Okay?
Do you have any powder for Gus's forehead, though? I'll share it with you. Yeah.
Thank you, Ken. With respect to buying your ticket for the Rotary International President Lunch, Terry and Joan Toon, they've bought their tickets, and Terry and Joan suggest that you print off the confirmation receipt. It doesn't tell you to do that, but they're suggesting that you might want to do that because all you're given is a confirmation number. And Steve is also our Director of Recognition today.
Thank you very much, President Alley. About time I won something in this club. The Dan Parker Award today was won by Dan Parker. It was very consistent. So Dan, the collector of fines is right over there, and we're going to fine you $2 for that late attendance at the meeting. But while you were gone, Dan, for all this time, you have had the naming rights for the latecomer. And do you know how much Save On Foods paid for the naming rights? Jane greeted me with a formal French greeting, touched both of my cheeks.
With what?
On my face. And she was very professional about that. And then Blair thought that he should do it too, and I moved on very quickly. Blair, you get a $2 fine just for thinking about it. I think I'm actually almost finished with the fines. Oh, sorry. Just one last thing. Every single person here who has a big one, a bigger badge than mine, you have to pay a $1 fine. That's ostentatious.
Just one quick comment. Some of you know that we've been affiliated with the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation for many years, and this last weekend we raised a total of $220,000.
Anyone else? Okay, let's stand for the Queen.